Are you filming this? We're going to talk about seller financing. How to buy property using owner-carry terms. Now, in many states, I've been told, seller financing in residential properties is verboten. Did you know that?
No.
Yes, in Arizona, for instance, residential agents can no longer participate in selling house with owner financing. In Colorado, residential agents, I keep using the word residential. In Colorado, Blake, aren't residential agents pretty well forbidden to make?
No, I wouldn't say it's forbidden, but they're discouraged.
Strongly discouraged, okay.
Because of Dodd-Frank, because they're owner-occupied.
Right, and not just with Dodd-Frank, it's with the agents themselves.
Well, it's a lot of brokerages.
Most agents haven't a clue and are not representing their buyers properly, and subsequently all kinds of problems come about. So we're talking only commercial real estate, okay? And when I say you buying it, you may have to think to yourself, if I do this for a client, you know? So what are some of the reasons for buying a property using seller financing? Yes, sir.
We bought a self-storage facility that way. It had to be because it didn't make sense and it wasn't financeable traditionally.
So you were overpaying, is that what you're saying?
No, we just created a structure in which allowed the financing to work versus going to a bank and getting a loan because they virtually had no income.
Okay, so buying a property that made no economic sense at this moment,
Correct.
but would become something more
Correct.
later. All right. Any other reasons?
You don't
Dave?
have any money.
Sorry?
You don't have any money.
You don't have any money. Creative real estate is for people who don't have any money, right? I mean, that's really what it amounts to. Why not just pay cash?
Or you want to use your money for something else.
Or what?
Or you want to use your money on something else, like if you're doing multiple.
I understand. Any other reasons why people use owner carry? Raise your hand.
Underwriters.
Sorry?
Underwriters.
Underwriters.
Tax benefits.
Did you mention maybe because they can't sell it?
Right?
For their price.
Did you mention maybe they can't sell it, so it's overpriced? Probably, possibly.
Or just no market for it, no buyers.
There are always buyers at a price,
Or they have a tendency not to show the numbers.
okay?
Yes.
All kinds of reasons like that. Yes, sir.
Cash tends to go in the
Mark?
pocket.
Young people in our market tend to, they buy 2 or 3 families. If they overfinance it, in 6 months they can go and refinance it. And so their cash in is a lot less. Because after 6 months, you can go on the appraised value. So they're getting probably 10 or 15% down as opposed to 30.
Okay, I understand. All right, yes, sir?
I bought a property, we beat out a cash buyer who knew that his offer was the same as our offer, and he thought he had it in the bag, and we got the offer, we got the accepted contract, and he could understand why the seller would take the seller finance over the cash, but I had talked directly, I sat with her and her CPA, and we worked out all the terms to her best tax advantage.
Okay, so some sellers like to sell on credit to defer their taxes
And she made a lot more.
and to earn interest on the money.
Yes.
Not everybody wants cash, right? Cash is trash. Yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some is,
Is it
Sorry?
4-letter dirty?
yes.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, those are some of the reasons. I'm going to tell you a story.
Get out title quick.
I'm going to tell you a story, a couple stories. 5 years ago, my son-in-law, his name is Joe, was sort of at loose ends. He had been a realtor for a long time, broker and a developer, and in 2008 something happened to him that some of you may be familiar with. he went broke. And he became a flipper for a while to feed his family, to feed my daughter-in-law, for instance, and my grandkids. And he came to me and he said, you know, I'm tired of this. Can we do something together or whatever? I said, okay. The Denver market, that's where I'm from, Denver, was getting hot, just like California and other places. And I had become enthralled or very interested in the Midwest, which is a different world. Who is here from the Midwest, sort of loosely? You're from Colorado.
Chicago.
Sorry?
Chicago.
Chicago, good, okay. Nobody else? Good. Okay. Let me tell you, if you go to Michigan or Illinois or all these places, it's a totally different world. And I said to him, and this is not a talk about mobile home parks, I got enthralled with mobile home parks about 5 years ago. And I said, if you will do as I say and make offers over the phone, just like Glenn Campbell, you know, and use the Multilist or the LoopNet or whatever, and make offers on these smaller mobile home parks with owner carry terms, I will support you until you support me. So he got on the phone, and a couple days later he says, I think I got one. I said, what's the deal? He says, it's a small 38 space park in Murfreesboro, Illinois, near Carbondale, which is the home of the Southern Illinois University. So it wasn't a complete hick town. And he said, she will sell, I've got her down to $80,000. We're in the Midwest now, okay? Different world. 38 spaces, half empty. And the woman can't sell it because she wants all cash. So to make a long story short, we talked her into carrying. $10,000 down, and the balance, so we wrote it at 80,000, 10,000 down, balance to be, or seller to carry the balance on terms to be agreed upon within 5 days. When we write a seller finance deal, we go one step at a time. We'll buy your property if you'll carry, and we'll decide later how we're going to do this. Okay? That sort of creates a sale.
But you stayed the down payment, right?
We made a $10,000 down payment.
That was.
We talked about making a $10,000 down payment. So now the seller was going to carry back $70,000. Joe had it in his mind that it would be a 10-year fully amortizing loan at 5%. Payments, I forget what they were. And a couple of days later, Joe says, yeah, I'm nervous. I don't want to make these payments. I said, well. He says, I want to back out. Well, are there some circumstances under which you do want to own it? I asked Joe. He said, well, I don't want to make those payments. I said, well, why don't you ask? I said, why don't you ask for 12 months, no payments? He said, she'll never do that. I said, have you asked? So he asked, and she said, okay. So Joe put $10,000 down, sell a carry on a Illinois land contract, okay? That's an installment land contract, which is, they have all different words in different states. What is one of the features of an installment land contract that's really good for a buyer? Anybody know? Nobody. There's no personal liability. Okay, you're not signing the promissory note. You're doing a contract. It's sort of like the deed is in escrow and you have an agreement and all that. In any event, Joe became the owner. The local attorney prepared the installment land contract, and Joe started to collect payments. And he says, wow, cash flowing like crazy. The seller, by the way, lived in Arizona, in Alaska. I said, well, you know, this was perfect situation. You don't have to make too many phone calls on some of these deals to find out a perfect situation. So then, Joe went on to better things. He became a substantial mobile home park investor in Michigan, quite far away from Illinois, and certainly far away from Colorado where he lived. And a couple years later, he began to dislike the park. He says, you know, I'm a big shot now. I have all these parks, and this little park, what am I going to do with that? I said, why don't you sell it? He said, yeah, that's a good idea. I says, how much do you want? He said, I just $125,000. Just give me my money back, give me some profit, and be gone. You know, he couldn't sell it for $125,000 cash because, you know, it's in this little town. There's nobody around. It's in Illinois, and he didn't try very hard either. He doesn't know anything about creative finance. So I said, give it to me. And this is the magic of the exchange group and the NCE and the local exchange group. I brought it to our state meeting and I said, it's worth $300,000. It's an 8 cap at $300,000. I mean, what's wrong with that? And I said, I'll sell it, I'll carry with no money down. And some Sharpie who is sitting in this room, who has authorized me to disclose this. Where are you, Blake? Oh, there you are. Said, I ain't paying you no $300,000. He beat me up to $200,000. And I said, well, wait a minute. We will carry, or Joe will carry, because it was his property. But what else do you own? Do you have anything else as additional collateral? This is one of the magical questions. He said, well, I own this duplex in Colorado Springs. I said, oh, would you put that up as additional collateral for this deal? I said, what in heaven's name do you want to do with a mobile home park in Murphyboro, Illinois? You live in Colorado Springs. He said, well, I have a partner. Oh, where does the partner live? In Illinois. I said, oh. So I said, you are contributing to this deal by offering your duplex as collateral, that is your share of this transaction, and this guy in Illinois is going to be the working partner. And Blake says, yeah. So I asked Joe, will you carry? He said, no, I told you I want $125,000 cash. Okay? So that, by the way, was a 3-year deal. Also, since I directed the deal, I said to Blake, I know who you are. And I said, I've heard who your partner is. You guys are going to sign a note personally, aren't you? And Blake said, yes. And we got a first mortgage against the mobile home park and a second against the duplex in Colorado Springs. The attorney who originally prepared the deal says, you should never sell on a note and mortgage in Illinois because it's hard to foreclose. I said, we have no intentions of foreclosing. You do intend to pay, don't you? I asked the borrowers, the buyers, because they signed the note personally. and he put up a duplex. So now we closed that deal, but before we closed the deal, Joe called the seller who held the note on the mobile home park, and he asked her what?
For a discount.
Right. He said, would you like to be paid off your $70,000 loan? She says, please. So he negotiated the deal for $60,000. Okay? So now he already got his down payment back because he didn't have to make payments the first year. So Joe carried back this deal. And he said, well, I don't want to do this. I said, well, do it. You're my son-in-law. And after he did it, I purchased, my company buys notes, I purchased that $195,000 first mortgage for $125,000. Right, and my payment, I'm getting $1,000 a month, and I had a $70,000 discount I earned over 3 years from one little stupid deal. Do you see? And through this group. Now, I met Blake's partner the other day, and I said, oh, I see you have it for sale for $300,000. He said, well, I'm not really want to sell it because it's worth more than that. We're making money. You know, it's crazy how you can create value out of nothing. You really can. So then Joe went on to bigger and better things in Michigan, right? And one of the parks we bought, was a 24-unit apartment building and 24 spaces, mobile home spaces. They came together. A mess. Crappy property, or not crappy property, crappy management. Jeff was the seller. And Jeff had inherited the park or the property from his father, who had built it up, and Jeff was in the process of destroying it. Joe found that in the multi-list, same way, had been on the market for quite a while. And was it 400, 450? We finally ended up buying it for 450, 450,000, 24 units and 24 spaces in Muskegon, Michigan, which is a substantial city, by the way. And this was 4 years ago, and it's crazy. People there are just different. It's just a different mentality. But Jeff was broke, very broke. And when we went to visit the park, he told us how much he hated all his tenants and how terrible some of these people were. And he pointed them out to us and we said, keep talking. However, we had to put $150,000 down. It was 400 and a 250 loan, so however that worked. 400, yeah, 150 down. Jeff was going to carry the loan for 20 years. He said, no, I want to be paid off sooner. I said, well, we can't. He said, well, I need $25,000 then, something or other with a child or something. So we structured the note with a bubble included. Anybody know what a bubble is on an owner-carry note?
A little balloon.
Sorry?
A little balloon.
A little balloon. We said, okay, we'll pay this over X number of years. I think it was 20 years. And in 5 years, we will make a principal payment of $25,000. And then it'll amortize out differently, however we did that. Jeff had an attorney. By the way, I really like attorneys. I know there are people in this group who don't like attorneys. I don't know why. I honestly don't know, because if the attorney represents the seller, that is for your protection. Because, for instance, this guy, his name was Phil, the attorney. The first thing he said, well, I want you to put the $50,000 earnest money into my account. And that's what I wanted. So we were not born yesterday. We went on the internet and we checked out Phil, and we learned that Phil, in Michigan apparently, an attorney, when they have served their time to society, you have to put on it. This attorney has served 2 years in prison for absconding with people's money. It's amazing. They have that's right in there. You see it on the internet. So we said, Phil, we would like to have the money with a title company, you know? He said, yeah, I understand. So we called him Phil and Phil from now on when we talked about him. And Phil said, you boys, this is how we talked, we got to know each other. You boys are trying to rip off my client, aren't you? I said, well, hey, we want to make a good deal. You're there to represent him, whatever. This is one of the reasons I like attorneys representing hapless sellers on property like that, because you can really, I mean, you know, you can go too far. So anyway, we closed this deal, and Joe went over there with a crew and they fixed it all up and became a great property. And we knew that we could get a bank loan down the road. But first we had to, you know, pay off this old character. And we knew we had a really good seller when on the 25th of the month, 5 days before the payment was due, Jeff called Joe and said, you're going to make the payment, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so we made the payment a couple times. And this is one of the things that you can do. You can make loans to yourself at a huge return. If you say to a Jeff, for instance, you know, can I make those payments in advance for you, maybe 5 payments for the next 6 months? Or somebody with a fancy calculator can figure out you can make a great return on your own money by prepaying your own debt at a discount. So we did that a couple times and played those little games. And Jeff told us that he hated America. He wanted to get out. So, where are you going? Vietnam. He happened to have a Vietnamese wife who was supposed to be cleaning the property while he was doing whatever he was doing. One of the things we did, we put in this note that I asked you at lunch. Did you have a first right of refusal in your loan documents, giving you the option to purchase your own debt back at a discount should that person receive a bona fide offer from some Sharpie like this lady? Have you heard of it? Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Anybody here?
Yeah.
You have the right, it is not too difficult to write. You get the attorney for the seller to write it in there. In the event Jeff receives a bona fide offer of X number of dollars, or no dollars, just some offer, the holder of the note shall have 60 days to match that offer. It does many things to your loan. First of all, Sharpies like CJ, they get discouraged. They don't want to bother negotiating with that because she knows that her loan or her offer will be matched by me, right?
Yes.
Right. We don't want some Sharpie, some company. There's a company here. I got a little letter here the other day. First National Acceptance Company. They sent these letters out nationwide, and they purchase owner carry notes, and at a discount. And you don't want them to hold your note. I mean, it's fine, but you want to have the right to do this yourself, right? Did you have a question?
Not yet.
Okay. So, put a first right of refusal in the debt that you owe. I remember,
Actually, do you have a copy somewhere of the clause that you would use to put in the contract?
I have the attorney write it. I don't have that with me, but it's easy. You just tell the attorney what to do. On these owner carry notes out of state, we always use an attorney because we don't know all the details there. Right. And some of them becomes on a separate document and recorded. Some of it is right in the note with the trust. It depends. I would like it to be part of a recording so that, again, CJ sees that and she says, oh, I'm going to pass on this one. You know, that reminds me, last year I was driving past a town called Sawash, Colorado, which is a little hick town. And there was a hotel there. And I had purchased the note on that hotel 15 years ago or something. And I received payments over a period of time. And then I got paid off. And I stopped by this spring, just for the hell of it. I saw a new person out front there, an owner. I stopped by and said, hey, are you the new owner? He said, yeah. I said, oh, may I ask how you purchased this hotel? Because I knew it was unfinanceable. He says, oh yeah, the seller carried it for me. I said, oh.
Oops.
He said, yeah, but I don't owe the seller anymore. Some Sharpie in New Jersey I have to pay now. Okay? So I remember that. So to go back to our deal with Jeff and Felon Phil, Jeff got this offer and he got to thinking and he says, I want my money. I want to get my money back, or I want to be paid. So he called Joe and he says, can you pay me? Joe says, sure. Joe owed him $250,000. And Joe said, well, I said for Joe, how much do you need? You know, that's the first question. Don't talk about what he wants. What do you need and why do you need it? Well, I'm going to Vietnam. And I got this offer for $150,000. I'm not taking $150,000 for my $250,000 now. No way. I said, okay, then why did you call? Well, will you offer more? So I am in the business of buying notes, and I do that out of my pension plan mostly. And he basically said, I'll take 175. I said, well, I don't have it. I've got 100. He said, well, what about the other 75? I said, well, can you carry me? Yeah. I said, would you sell me your loan on credit? I'll give you 100 now, and then Joe will continue to make the payments based on $250,000 to my pension plan, and I'll pay you the other 75 in 3 years. How's that? And he went to Phil. And Phil said, you crazy? I will not let my client sell you a note on credit. I said, why don't you figure it out then? I said, Phil, I see what you want to, you see what I want to do, but I understand your objections. Why don't you create paperwork somehow where you're happy and I have to only pay $100,000 now, and Joe continues to make the payments to me for the full amount, and I pay the other 100,000, the other 75, excuse me, in 3 years. So Phil did some mumbo jumbo, and we did it. We don't have to go into the details of the paperwork right now, but this is how I purchased that loan. Now Joe said, and we already knew this, Joe said, you know, we have to come up with all this money. I said, well, we're almost ready for a refinance, aren't we? And we were ready at that time, almost ready, to to go to a real bank, the PNC Bank, Pacific, no, what's PNC Bank stand for? Pittsburgh National Bank, right? And get a real loan, get a real appraisal, and pay all this off, and that's what we did. So this is how we financed our way out. I got paid off, I got my second mortgage paid off, the money I had advanced, and all that. Do you see how we did that? And we ended up buying cheap. I contend that most owner-carry sales, the buyers pay too much, by definition. I mean, really, by definition. And another thing that is dangerous, when you buy on credit from the seller, you forget some of the nitty-gritty details that the bank makes you do. For instance, do you ask for a survey when you buy a property?
Yes.
Half the time you forget or don't do it. Or a phase one.
Always.
And you need to think ahead. Remember what Lyndon Johnson once said when he was faced with the Vietnamese War mess? You know, it's easier to stay out than to get out. And a lot of these deals, you get in, you get excited, you sign your name away, and then you need to get out. And then you go to a bank after a couple of years, and the bank says, did you get that survey? We need a survey. And you find out something about the property or something. Be careful. And be careful signing your name. About 10 years ago, I, through a series of mishaps, partially my own fault, well, it's always your own fault, I was indebted to a member of our group in Denver to the tune of $75,000, and this person had a first mortgage against a piece of land that had a $400 a month HOA dues, and this was in 08 or 09, whenever. And I said, you know, I'm just going to give it back to you. Sorry. Sorry. He goes to an attorney, a member of our group again, and that guy says, Tom, taps me on the shoulders. He says, Tom, is that your signature? I said, yeah. He says, we don't want the property back. We want you to pay. Guess what I did? I paid.
Change your name.
Yeah,
Change your
I
name.
paid.
Vietnam.
I mean, you know,
Cold
remember, on this personal liability issue, we're all so easy. We sign our life away, and times are good, and everything is wonderful. Would you agree with that?
I'm in one right now, so yeah. I signed on the 80-unit hotel in Branson.
Speak up a little bit because people can't hear. Okay.
And so I signed on an 80-unit hotel, wanted it just to help out a buddy and hopefully get a potential profit piece on the end. He sold the LLC, the person went in and gutted the hotel. So now I'm figuring out how to finish the remodel on the hotel, get it back open again. And I'm doing it mostly just because I'm on the note. I don't have any ownership whatsoever in the property.
Right. Okay, well, that's a good example of, you know, there we go. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm bringing it here at good rates, not to make any money, but just basically get it so I'm not involved in that property anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you not signed on the note, would you have been here with that property?
No.
No. Okay. So there's a very good reason.
Are you still friends
Now-
with the guy you helped out?
Yeah, no, we're good. He's working hard. It wasn't him that screwed it up. You know, this other person messed up the property by gutting it. And it's a famous one of the gurus, by the way, and he's going after that person for $600,000-$700,000. But this person has a slew of lawyers, you know, fighting that. So it's not that easy.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is the sort of thing that you have to worry about. So we're gonna have a little exercise. Who is here for the first time? You are Class A, and everybody else is Class B, okay? Or Group A, Group B. We're gonna assume the following scenario. Seller owns an apartment building free and clear, which they think is worth $1,000, $1 million, okay? It's kind of high because they feel that they have superior management skills, but it is in a C location and it's a C property, sort of the sort of thing that you own. Yeah. Right? We understand who we are. Yeah. Absolutely. You need to know where you are in this world. You are a C property owner. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a trailer park owner, okay?
Yes,
I'm proud of
there
it.
you go.
Trailer trash.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe your sea trailer.
Well, we bought fixer-upper trailer parks, yes. And that's how we got seller financing. You don't get seller financing on a Class A property in San Diego. It doesn't exist, basically. We're talking about the Midwest crappy property that needs our administration, it needs our TLC efforts. All right, so they want to sell this property because they're tired. There's a lot of people I've noticed when we make offers, they're tired. We love those kind of people. They want to travel and they have income without work, so they want to carry. If they sell for all cash, they face a 20% tax hit. Just don't argue me with the number. Which they know they'll have to face somehow anyway. But they also are stuck on their price, okay? Previous offers from thieves have been around, you know, 800,000-900,000, which they just plain won't accept. If they do sell for cash, the bank will only give them 3%. They're not interested in another property, and they won't go tick route. Anybody know what ticks are? Okay. This is how people can exchange their overpriced property into an overpriced tick. Well, it's true. And many people who try to save money on taxes pay it to somebody else. Because they know deep down that someone else may not manage the property as well as they have. They want a large down payment, say $300, $350 or so they can feel safe. And they really want a 60-month balloon. First of all, is this a reasonable listing for someone, knowing that their price is a little high, and knowing that with that kind of money, maybe someone can get an institutional loan and maybe buy or pay less. Anyway, everybody understand the scenario?
No one's gonna get that big of a down payment.
You are in Group B.
Yeah, Wade.
Yes, sir.
So, this is an income property?
It's an apartment building, yes.
So, I mean, what's the income? How can you make an offer on something where you don't know the income?
I am telling you what it is.
Who brought that guy?
I'm telling you that the sellers think that it's reasonably priced. Okay?
A reasonable cap rate, right?
What's reasonable?
I don't know, that's up for you to find out in a
I
minute.
can't do that without the income.
Need a cap rate. We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
You're way ahead of me.
Sorry.
Okay. So John, who is with Group A, They are ambitious people. He and his wife are young and they've saved 50 grand. Let's assume it's a 6% cap rate, okay? Just accept that, please.
Done.
Done. Their realtor approaches the seller, the seller's agent, with an owner carry offer, because that's how it's listed, as follows. Sales price, $1 million. Down payment, $50,000. Owner carry, $950,000. Terms to be agreed upon within 5 days of acceptance. That's it. Okay?
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
It just-
Ed, you're in B.
It just hit me. It just hit me that you've kind of gone over just a little bit about the offer you make when you say terms to be negotiated. And what's the beauty of that really too, that you hadn't mentioned, is you get to tie this thing down.
Yes.
Before the rate and the term and all the things that can slow the deal down.
Thank you for helping
If
me.
somebody jumps in and steals that thing from you, you don't have that problem because you've controlled it.
Yes, and they've agreed to carry. We just haven't talked about the terms yet.
Yeah, I mean,
And the
that's,
seller has gone out and spent
That's
that
huge.
$50,000 down payment.
Already.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what, we don't have that 50,000 with Felon Phil, but we have it with the title company, right, in their mind.
In their mind,
Yes.
they've already figured out.
Right. It is very difficult in your head, you know, when you make that offer and you go to bed that night to stop worrying about all the details of the terms of the loan. Forget it. First, you tie it up, there you go. That's number one. Class A, what is your reaction to this $1 million offer, $50,000 down payment, $950 owner carry? Go ahead. Is that a good offer?
Depends.
You in Class A? Oh. You in Class B? Is this a good offer?
It's a great offer if the
Yeah.
building is worth it. But I still don't think we have enough information to determine.
Oh,
It's
the
a-
terms,
It's a 6 cap.
The deal, putting it together and tying it up is a good deal, provided that in 5 days you can negotiate good terms.
That's what it said.
Initially, it sounds fine.
Okay. All right. So now you are the seller, Class A. What is your reaction to this offer? You say accept it?
If I'm the seller,
Yeah.
and I own it free and clear,
Yes?
and without, I might be open to negotiate, but the down payment's light.
Yes or no?
Nope. No, nope, not just no, hell no.
Okay,
It's
fair
Class C.
enough.
It's too hard to work with.
Class less.
Okay, any other comments about this offer?
Well, they know it's priced high. And they're getting
I'm sorry?
They know it's priced high, right, the seller? You said
The
no?
sellers are, yeah, they deep down they know, you know.
And they're getting their price.
They're getting their price.
The only condition they're not getting is the desire for a higher down payment, right?
They don't like the down payment, or they only a low down payment,
Yeah.
And they're tired, right?
and they're
I
tired.
think they got a good deal.
You think they got a good deal? You're the owner of the $1 million building that you
It matters how
know
much, right?
somebody else can screw up because it's in a C location and they are good managers, and who the hell are you?
Okay, I changed my mind.
Change your mind. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Are we going to counter maybe?
Just into the counter really right now.
What questions should the realtor ask the buyer? Or what questions should the seller ask the buyer?
Are we still on Group A?
We're not allowed to answer.
All right, full participation.
How long are the leases for?
Okay. Is that your counter? How long are the leases for?
Well, you wanna know how long the leases are for, if they're gonna be.
But not until you get it tied up.
Seller, you should- Oh, I'm the seller, okay, my bad.
That's all part of your due diligence, you wanna get it tied up.
That's your due diligence.
First concern,
Sorry?
first concern is if those brokers are a bunch of idiots, you're gonna
Is that your counter?
No,
That's pretty iffy.
Are we the seller? Right now?
You're the seller.
I'm countering with a $300,000.
Just a minute, just a minute, okay, hold on for a second.
I'm countering with a $300,000 limit.
That's it,
That's what I'm doing.
and you're sticking to that. Okay, fair
So
enough.
they counter me.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, yes, sir.
I would ask the buyers two things. One, have they ever done this before? Do they know what they're doing?
Okay, there's an intelligent question, and two,
Two, what other properties do they own?
finally we get somebody.
Oh, you want to carry more properties?
Okay.
Other properties, additional properties?
Well, what else you got?
Okay.
No, he hasn't.
The magic question is always, there's an experienced person, the magic question is always, what else do you own?
Yeah.
Don't just be harsh, don't just be harsh and
Are
say,
you
I
tired
want
of other
$300,000 or get out of here.
Are you tired at other properties as well?
Yeah, but you're coming out from the buyer's standpoint.
Ask the question, what else do
What else you
you
got?
own?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Pickup truck, whatever.
Yeah, right.
What else you got?
Okay, well, I got news for you. They got. I gotta read my notes here. Okay. John owns an office building because they were asked.
Fire.
He owns an office building that's worth $1 million, subject to a $400,000 loan.
This is a new,
Is this the buyer?
No, this is what else he's done.
This is the buyer.
The buyer.
This is what he's done.
The buyer is putting $50,000 down.
So he's got 600,000 in equity in another building.
Sorry.
So he has 600,000 of equity in another building.
And he happens to have $600,000 in another building.
Once you cross
Do we look more favorably on John?
Yes.
A little bit.
We like him better, right?
Right.
We're not gonna just kick him out of the door and say, we want $300,000, sorry. We wanna continue the conversation. These people are willing to carry. They wanna make a deal. They don't wanna scare these people off. So, and he reluctantly agrees to encumber his office building with a additional collateral clause or whatever. Want to discuss that? Would you do that?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I do it. I do it at $300,000 and I take my $50,000 cash and put it back in the bank. So I take $300,000 and have a soft second on there at 0%, just so it's a second. which
Say that
will
again,
buy
you're
me.
mumbling.
I'm sorry.
You're willing to pay $1 million.
I'm willing to pay $1 million, but I'm gonna have them take a soft second in my office building at $300,000. I'm not gonna make payments on it,
Right.
but it'll have a balloon on it, how many, whatever years.
All right.
I'm gonna take my $50,000 back, cause I like cash in the bank.
Okay,
So
so
now-
you are saying, I will buy a building, I will use a soft $300,000 second against my office building as down payment, and there's nothing wrong with that as
At
a matter of principle. Sorry?
0%.
0%.
Holding
I
up
like
for 5
interest.
years.
Okay, all right. Any other offers?
You're still-
Any other counter offers?
Zero.
Anybody? What about tying up the building? What about just saying,
She's on the right track.
yeah, she sure is.
Yeah.
She's on the right track.
But then you don't know, you know your building, you don't know what you're going into. So you
Well-
have to create a performance agreement in there somewhere.
Well, you're getting too fancy at this stage of the game. We'll go there later.
Fair enough.
I'm with you
So
though.
definitely,
I have to know my
then
numbers. and
cut your
market.
expenses.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're right.
go ahead.
Maybe I'm missing something. I would just simply ask them to add this office building, the second,
Right.
to the collateral of my building that I'm selling. To
Right.
make very sure that they have a vested interest that they're gonna lose if they
Right.
don't manage it right.
Right.
And then it becomes much less risky.
Yes,
The whole
she
deal.
has the right idea, but you're going
Mine's
a
a little
step further.
different.
And
Yeah.
besides, everybody understand, all he wants to do is a blanket mortgage against, I'll get you in a second, a blanket mortgage against both properties,
Yeah.
period. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if this would work, but I'm tired, I'm the owner, I'm tired.
Right, I'm tired right now.
I'd ask them to get a note on their building, like somebody else, one of these people in the room, and they come in with more cash down.
Okay, there is another offer. You are telling them to go and borrow some money against the other property, the office building, and use it as a down payment for, right, there's another way. Blake?
Now, that note that you just created, by adding extra collateral, that thing now might be able to be sold for enough cash, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
Something like you would buy, and then another, just to get people to understand the creativity. We came to Tom, and Tom was doing that, and it's Blake bringing that big building, and I said, let's do this deal. What am I also walking out of the door with?
Now, I'm the seller, I'm the buyer suddenly, okay?
I'm saying, if you were the seller of the property, I come with extra collateral.
I would ask for everything I get my hands on.
Right, but then when I'm walking out of the closing, what's Blake Allen probably gonna do?
Get a note and sell the note.
I'm gonna walk out with extra cash, because you
Yeah.
wanna invest more in cash.
All right, so now I'm the seller, and I have worked hard, and I've saved money for this office building. My wife and I have it for 7 years. We've scrambled, saved $50,000.
Fine.
So you're the buyer.
I'm the buyer.
We could do a swap.
I am kind of reluctant to give up all that collateral and tie up my life for that building, for that apartment building, but I want it. So maybe we should make a counter offer, right? Lyndon Johnson, I'm telling you, that man was right. It's easier to stay out than to get out. Because now what? How long is this loan going to be? Is it going to be, so here, John sits down with his realtor, and he writes up the following: 950 first deed of trust, cross collateralized with the office building, 6%, 30 years, full am. Okay? Anything else? Who would do that? Who would want to encumber his or her office building for fully amortizing 30-year loan secured by the new building and the old building? You would, okay? There is no right answer, but you would. Yes, sir.
So when you put that much, Blake said this, I like to give buyer sellers 2 or even 3 offers. So I'd say at 50 grand down, I'll do it at 6% interest, but if I'm gonna put 300 down, I want 4% interest. I have to have a spread on that cap
Okay.
rate. And so
Or no
I like to
offer.
give them multiple offers, because a lot of times instead of them like fighting that offer,
Yes.
they choose one. And
Yes.
so I like to give them scenarios, and maybe I'll hit on one of them, and all 3 of them are good
Yes.
for me.
Yeah.
Plus, they're getting the full price, you're just getting better terms.
Right,
Yes.
especially if you're paying full price, you have to have a spread on that cap rate versus the loan rate.
All right.
But can I just mention something? Now
Yes,
we're
sir.
Now we're getting into the terms prior to acceptance of the offer too.
Correct. We're talking, and
Yeah.
you're right. He's ahead of himself. That's okay, of us.
So we could get there, we could do more of a counseling with the actual seller faster and figure out what their button is. Once
You know, there's a lot of
get
things
that,
we don't know.
You know, yeah.
I may want
Stand
to,
the man.
I may want to sell this office building in 5 years. Am I going to tie it down for 30 years? How are we going to do this?
Substitute for collateral.
Well, that's a very difficult clause to write, but I hear what you're saying. The gentleman in the back,
So, I was representing the seller.
okay?
No one asked me, how much cash do I need?
That's number one, for sure.
So that's
they didn't
gonna,
need
that's
cash.
gonna change the whole.
Nobody asked that question. We're always so involved in the deal without talking about the person.
Well,
Correct.
how much cash flow do I want, and how long and how do I want it?
Yes, yes.
So that can
Yes,
completely change the whole.
we're also involved, we get this offer and we're saying we want this, without going across the aisle in effect, shaking the seller's hand and say, let's sit down, and what is it that you need? Why do you need $350,000?
Yeah, what else do you own?
I need $350,000 because I want to make safe. That's what I told you in the beginning. You want to feel safe. You want to make sure that you're going to pay. So we got rid of that by giving them the office building, right? Okay.
I was just gonna say, on behalf of the owner of the office building, the buyer, who may not wanna give that up or
or add that to the collateral, that he could say, I will give it to you as collateral until such time as the principal on the note is reduced to $650,000,
Right.
whereupon you release this
Right.
from the collateral, or if it's before that, I will pay you cash that will drop it down to 650, that will allow me
Yes.
to release the second.
Right, we're always thinking about the deal without thinking the future. I'm telling you, people in this room, general, and I've been guilty of the time. Don't think they're always thinking about the deal rather than thinking about the future. What about if it says in the offer, I'll give you my office building, but I think I'm stealing this building, and if it's worth $1.5 million, as per a legitimate appraiser in 3 years, you'll agree to release the office building, for instance, right? Or do, as Ed said, some other way.
What if you gave them an equity share in the office building, so now you?
Whatever, right. But don't, we're getting too fancy equity share, what is that?
Well, so this way, if you wanna sell the building in 5 years, then
Okay.
it's not, you don't have a 30-year.
Yeah, obligation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But this is the biggest thing I see as a note buyer. I buy owner carry notes and all that. People do not think about the future. Who in this room thinks that in 5 years the economy is going to be just like it is now? Nobody, right? Right. I mean, I have no clue. I don't even know what's going to happen next year. But all I know is I've been through a lot of ups and downs, and I know that it's going to be different. Right now, it looks like interest rates are going even lower. They're saying it's going to be forever. I don't know. I have no clue. Think about the future. All right. I do think that you should try to keep the transaction as straightforward as possible, because with all this fancy stuff, you scare people, they walk. They really do. They say, oh, this guy or this woman is just too fancy for me.
A lot of times it's the feedback from the broker.
The broker is
Doesn't
often in the
understand
way,
it.
right. And I'm telling you, try to keep it as straightforward as possible. So let's talk a bit about this signature, about this personal liability issue, which is hitting people. I've seen it so many times. And here we have an example. There's a guy who's here to get rid of the problem that he created in a moment of euphoria. I'm speaking for you, but sort of like that. When 36 payments have been made on time, buyer shall be released of personal liability. For instance, I mean, it's just for 5 years worth, or whatever. Or when the property appraises for $1.2 million, or when, Trump gets reelected, or something. There should be an end to our liability. Somehow. So the attorney will say, the attorney for the seller will say, well, I want you to be personally liable. Yeah, do. But under what circumstances can we renegotiate this? How can we change this? This is the Wild West. There are no manuals that say, thou shalt be released of liability in 60 months or something like that. Write it in there and think about it. And I don't know where you get your ideas. I get mine in the shower. And when you have that deal under contract and you have all agreed to think about the terms, you could take a lot of showers and start thinking about this. Who has ever heard of a guy named Jimmy Napier? A couple people. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And Jimmy used to have a plastic cards that you had. They were waterproof. So when you read them under the shower, you And this was during the days when you could buy houses with assumable loans, and you were really negotiating the second mortgages and all that. And it, you had these little cars, all these crazy ideas. How about a Christmas holiday? How about no payments for Christmas? You know, stupid stuff. But when you start thinking about it, think about all the reasons you can change this. No, you're not a bank. You're a free human being. Think about it. Anyway, so the people now, we're getting nowhere, are we? He's a hard ass. He says, I want $300,000.
Mr. Hard Ass to you.
He's from Tucson.
He wants to tie up his office building for forever and ever. So now they're coming back and they're saying, you know, we really do want a balloon. You're getting too fancy. We want a 5-year balloon or a 10-year balloon. 5-year balloon. Because we're getting old and our kids want cash and we think we'll be dead in 5 years, you know. So how do you negotiate a balloon if the seller is adamant about having a balloon? You want this property? I'll lower the price, but I want this balloon. Okay? Yes, sir.
If he thinks he's gonna be dead in 5 years and the kids want the money, I'll buy an insurance policy for
All right.
$1 million, and your kids will get $1 million when you drop dead, and I'll make the payment.
Fine. There's an answer. There is no right or wrong.
It comes with the balloon.
I have written
That's the
in
balloon.
balloons. Yeah.
And the insurance pays 50% of whatever the remaining debt is on the loan.
Fine, I'll accept your offer. So also you could, for instance, say, you know, I'm worried about the future 5 years from now. You know, right, interest rates are low right now. I don't know, maybe they're gonna be much higher in 5 years. I have no clue. What if I can't get a loan in 5 years? What if I write in there that I will agree to diligently apply for a loan with a bank or an institution, but if I can't, on reasonable terms or conditions, you agree to extend it for another 5 years. For instance, there is no right or wrong, but think about that before you do all these things. I had hoped to have a member who was coming here, and he's going to come, who is in a bit of a pickle. And he had graciously allowed himself to be stripped naked, if you will. He bought the property, signed personally, put money down with a 2-year balloon. And we were going to have him take off his clothes, so to speak. And we were all going to see if we could help him somehow, okay? Anyway, he's not here yet, but he may show up yet. What time is it? He said he'd be here at, maybe soon. Will you extend the balloon if I increase the interest rate? Will you, yes?
I've written that into almost every owner carry thing that I've done.
Tell us again exactly what you've done.
Basically, instead of a balloon, there is a bell curve increasing interest rate.
Love that word, okay?
So it basically what would be the balloon days, the interest goes up by 25, a quarter of a point per year.
Okay.
If I don't pay it off then it goes up by 0.5% every 6 months. If I don't pay it off then it goes up by a full
Right.
percent every 3 months.
That's puncturing the balloon, isn't it?
So basically, if I can't borrow money because no bank is loaning money, and I don't wanna go to Tom and or someone else that is proud of
Or a
it,
shark next to you, right?
it gives me a chance to buy some time, and yet the seller knows that pretty soon, it's gonna get, the interest rates are gonna get so high that I'm gonna find a way.
Yes. That is a very gentle way of puncturing the balloon, isn't it? Any other talks on the balloon? Anybody else have any ideas?
You could always, come to the group like this and knowing you're going into prepackaged, come to you and say, I'm gonna have a note for you to buy here shortly, and package in a discount in advance.
Yeah.
I make the note walkable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can talk about that right now, I suppose, but you are a fancy guy. You and I have known each other a long time. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Making the note walkable, let's leave that till a little later.
Okay.
Let's just get that, you're scaring me. I'm the seller, you're scaring me with these foreign words. Okay. We've talked about the partial release issue, right? How to overcome partial releases. Is it a reasonable thing to ask of the buyer or the seller of this $1 million property that he will agree to release the office building after 5 years or 3 years or something?
Sure.
If whatever.
Yeah,
It's a reasonable thing, right?
definitely.
Right. All right. Should we ask for a first right of refusal also as the buyer?
I would.
Absolutely. Never do that. Never sign your name unless you have a right to buy your own paperback. My son-in-law, Joe, the guy who went broke in '08, had a very good example of that. He was a subdivider. He had a subdivision, and he had financed that with the bank. And he owed $20,000 per lot. I forget how many lots, quite a few. And the lot prices had dropped to, I'm paraphrasing, to $10,000. And he said to the bank, I can sell them, but would you please release them? They said, no, $20,000 a lot. I said, well, I can't sell them. I'll sign a note for the difference. Let me sell these lots. No. Of course, the bank went broke. And then the FDIC sold the lots for $5,000. I mean, it's just, and then the bank sued Joe for the entire amount. So you got to be in control of your debt. And that's why that's one of the reasons banks are so dangerous. You know, they really are. Described as a person who gives you an umbrella when the sun shines and takes it away when it rains. You know? And usually the guy who makes you the loan is no longer with them. How many people here have been involved in bank negotiations during tough times?
Oh, yeah.
See, all the old guys, you know, right.
I'm not old.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at you. I looked over this side. They're not fun, are they?
Yeah.
No.
All the old ones. 2000.
Okay. All right. So the building, we're going to go and change format. The bank, the building is a dump. Okay? It's a real dump. It's half empty, poorly managed. It's a dump. You don't have any money, but you want the building. Is it reasonable to say to the seller, I will get a loan for 50% of the purchase price from some shark like Armand or a bank or something, and you, seller, carry a second? Anybody ever done that?
Yeah.
Nobody else?
Oh, yeah.
Really? You've done it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the building was in poor condition or whatever, and you say, I can get a loan for 50 cents on the dollar on the purchase price because of my signature, basically, but I can get a loan. And you, Mr. Seller, carry a second behind that new loan, so I can go and fix this property and then refinance it. That's a very common, or was anyway, a common way to get control of a property. Right, Blake?
Yeah, I just did it on Friday.
You did it on Friday. You want to share what you did?
Bought back a property in Cripple Creek that you're familiar with, for that
Now, there are issues with doing that. What are some of the problems associated with that sort of a transaction on the seller's side?
The sellers.
The sellers.
Yeah.
The seller now has a second behind a loan, behind a first mortgage that may or may not have friendly terms. And how is the seller protected? I personally would never get involved as a buyer in such a transaction, and I would insist that the seller be represented by an attorney. I'm telling you, I've seen how this happens and how this can come down, where the seller agrees to subordinate or to a hard money second that's due in a year or something like that, and the seller's note is for 5 years. How are they protected? Not very well, right?
No. I did want similar to that.
But I'm the buyer, right?
Oh, we're on the buyer side.
It's used to be
He just
called
switches
a
hats.
1-2.
Yeah,
1-2.
I'm happy, I'm
Yeah,
good.
right.
You do have a solution, you need to, it's the problem to fix. It's not
I've
great,
done it. I have bought property that way.
but it works.
It works like a charm in bad times. Yes, sir.
You said you would insist the seller be represented. Is that because you'd be scared of being accused that you're a sophisticated guy and you induce, and is there a liability there? Is that
Yes,
what you
sir.
meant?
If you default,
Yes, sir.
you're in trouble shit.
Sorry?
If you default, you're in a lot more trouble than if you default on
You
me.
really are. If you do that to a civilian, you really are in trouble.
But it's
And
it's
if you-
negotiation. Now, you came up with a structure. I mean, if they own it and they go in second, somebody would say, well, that's their choice. You know, maybe they misunderstood. I see what you're saying. But
No. It's fine. It is, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Yes, sir.
So if you do that and the seller is then in second position, because I'm
Yes.
not loaning anybody any money unless I'm in first position. So in my
Sir, you
opinion,
are telling me you won't lend any money unless you're in first position?
with I want to be able to foreclose on the property should they go.
I'm
down.
sorry, but we cannot do business. We are doing a 1-2, where you, Mr. Seller, are going to be in second position. I'm going to get a loan from Armand over there, and you are going in second position. If you don't want to sell the property, then you and I can do business.
So what's the recourse if you're in second position and the guy goes belly up? And then the hard money guy has first position.
Yes.
He gets
Yes.
his property.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
you're left with nothing.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm saying. You I will, as a buyer, insist that you are protected, because I don't trust you.
So how do you do that as a buyer to make sure that the seller is protected?
You make them go to an attorney, and make the attorney read the,
I understand that, but would you make sure? I mean, do you put up
You tell
other
him.
collateral or?
no, you say to the guy, I won't do this deal unless you go to an attorney of your choice.
So the attorney is not for him, it's for you,
by the attorney.
to
Correct.
indemnify you if and when something does go wrong. Hey, I sent him to an attorney, sorry, okay.
you knew what he was doing.
And I got a letter from the attorney blessing this deal.
Seller beware.
Understood,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes,
You're
sir.
not walking through the real reason you did something.
I'm sorry?
You didn't get a chance to walk through the real reasons that you do that, right?
But the reason,
You didn't want to do it, but you don't want to accept a sales price that's at 70% of what the value is.
Yeah, there's
right?
motivation
Sellers
to
get
let
that
it
way.
I don't have any money.
Partnering up with them, but they're betting on you, you're betting, and they're betting the property, in a way.
No, the buyer is not betting anything.
Is that buyers?
Her time.
Oh, have you been through bad times? You're too young.
Against possible future consequences, is that wrong?
Sorry. Okay, one at a time, go for it. Go ahead.
And this is what I just understood, over here. that
Hey, guys,
the
I can't hear
The
him.
reason that you send your seller to an attorney is to indemnify yourself against possible future
Right.
stuff.
And they happen all the time.
Right. And does that, are we clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody gets you and gets me
Well,
too.
I want to make sure that I
Yeah,
understand. Thank you.
absolutely. Brian?
Mine was, I bought a property that way.
Okay,
From-
you bought it.
I
Tell
bought
us
it.
what you did. Tell us, explain it.
A lot of crazy stuff. It was a self-storage facility. The motivation was she didn't want to show up anymore because you talked about asking more questions, it was, what do you want to do? She doesn't
Right.
want to show up anymore. Well, here's how
So
we
she
can-
owned a mini storage
Yeah.
in Phoenix?
No, Aiken, South Carolina.
Oh, in South Carolina,
300
close.
380
Yeah.
units.
How many units?
380.
380 units, and how much was the purchase price?
I bought it for $660 on creative terms.
Well, explain that.
Well, we took it over in a master lease in my company name.
What's a
Subject-
master lease?
I agreed to lease the property for X amount of dollars.
Okay.
Which covered her debt and
Okay.
covered.
She owed money on it?
She had it first on it for $450, which I took over subject to.
You took the loan, you took the property subject to that first mortgage?
Correct, in
Which you agreed and assumed to pay?
Correct, via,
You did? Or didn't?
no, via master lease.
Okay.
And the loan stayed in her name.
Yes.
The payment stayed in her name.
Did the deed go into your name?
Hold on a minute.
Did you get the deed?
Eventually. So via the master lease,
Okay.
we put her into a second position for $200,000, $270 on a 7-year note.
Okay?
In year 2, she tried to cancel my master lease, saying that we were ripping her off because she went to church with the appraiser and other people, whatever. Long story short is, she wanted to get paid off on the second note, and I had already flipped the contract to an investor for $200,000. The deal I did with Mike Elkins. And we had we shorted it. I don't
What do you
think
mean you shorted it?
she wanted to get paid now.
So
We said,
you
here's,
paid her off at a discount?
paid her off at a
We
discount,
speak English here,
subject to getting the deed,
okay?
which the loan stayed in her name because it was still non-financeable
Okay.
traditionally. So-
Triggering a due on sale clause.
Correct. And she was represented by an attorney, and the attorney,
Good.
we were both represented by attorneys.
Was she represented at the beginning of the
Very
deal?
beginning, yeah.
All right, okay.
So when she came back to get paid off and they said, you want the deed, that's probably not something we should probably do. We're like, well, she wants to get paid now, and this is how this is gonna have to work.
Well, these kinds of things should be handled up front, obviously. I mean,
Well, it was
there
structured
should be
upfront.
in writing some sort of an agreement that if you do A and B and C, the deed goes to you. But that wasn't very clear at the time.
Well, technically, yes, it was, but it wasn't clear that she wanted to get paid off in 2 years out of 7.
Okay,
That's
well,
what
that's
brought
fine.
it up. That's what
So
brought it
you
up.
offered to pay her at a discount.
Correct.
And did she accept this discount?
Yes,
And did you perform?
yes.
Oh, and that was the end of the story.
And the note was still in her name. The first position was still in her name. So she got her cash, but she let it continue to stay.
Okay.
400, yeah, with a Regions Bank.
Somebody else purchased the property subject to that loan.
Correct, I flipped it and then I stayed on as manager,
Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Somebody else had a question here, yes?
Back to, I'm the seller, someone asks me to be in second position, they're giving me half the money up front because they took out this hard money loan.
Wait a minute, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
We're buying a property with no money down.
I'm the seller,
You're the seller.
and with, going back to that example you used before where you're getting a first for half the money.
Yes,
So I get half the money, and I'm gonna carry a second,
yes,
which is a wish.
correct.
And so what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna say, well, I've got this money up front. I'm going to either go with the higher interest rate, or I'm going to, instead of getting 500, I want 650 to be in the second position.
Fine.
So I'm gonna raise the rate.
Fine.
Because I'm getting bigger chunks up front, and there's less liability for me if I'm getting.
Fine,
more.
whatever you negotiate.
But you.
But be
we don't have to-
aware that you can charge whatever interest rate you want.
Right.
If you're not secured and the buyer, the payer is worthless,
Right.
80% of nothing is nothing.
Right, but you think you're still gonna get a couple of years of payments before.
You don't know, I don't know, I might default from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing, personally, I would not do that. If I were in that situation, I would do it. I say, what else do you
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
There, yes.
Well, the state of Washington, the Department of Licensing is calling that a buyer walk loan.
Sure as hell is.
And any agent involved in one is subject to license revocation.
Yes, sir. Now, that is generally,
Yeah.
there is a way around it.
Yeah, yes, there is, but.
And the way around it is always
An attorney.
bless it.
Right.
That's right. And in residential stuff, that's out totally.
Right.
Totally. But I'm talking commercial, and I'm saying if you're going to get involved in such a transaction, be aware. And
Right.
in your state, and I bet you in many states,
Same
it's
thing.
not just immoral, it's illegal, right? Okay, Brian?
I did another one like
You
that.
did another one. All right, what did you do?
Bought a medical building,
You bought a what?
a medical building
Medical building.
in Atlanta, vacant,
Okay.
with water damage.
Okay?
Took over the first, subject to, with SunTrust, again for $450, just happened to be. It was a $2.2 million building. The seller carried back a $1.2 million second, which the broker said is illegal to carry back a larger second than the first.
What?
Yeah. Mark's,
Anybody ever heard
hold
of
on,
that?
Mark's the chap that explains it. I had
Well,
substitution collateral.
Don't, you know, Marcus and Millichap has some very smart people,
I
but they
get
are
it, I
generally
get it.
not involved in seller financing.
Correct.
We are bottom feeders here, and we're into the smaller stuff, but go
So
ahead.
we took over the first, subject to, seller carries second, no payments, no interest of 15 months, substitution of collateral, first right of refusal.
All the mumbo jumbo,
I
all
had
the bells
everything-
and whistles.
I had everything in the seminar book on that deal.
Okay, now, except
including-
one thing.
Hold on.
Have you ever read a deed that you receive? Here's the deed. Purchaser hereby agrees to pay and assume the existing loan. Okay?
Okay,
Nobody looks at that.
right.
Right. I once sued a Bank of America executive. I didn't sue him, I threatened to sue him, who had purchased a property subject to this loan. No, he had assumed and agreed to pay this loan. The writing was right in the
Difference of
deed.
assuming, right.
I said, he said, you can't make me. I said, well, why don't you just go to an attorney and he'll tell you. And I got paid. So just because it shows that it's non-recourse, if you accept a deed, you don't have to sign anything. It's right on the table. There's the
Right.
deed you accept that is the same as your signature.
So also, hold on, I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry?
I wasn't done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Also in the transaction, it had water damage. So the seller had just put a new roof on it, and the brokers are saying, you're gonna have to pay for this $500,000 worth of work that needs to be done. I said, no.
Okay.
So we filed an insurance claim against the seller's insurance.
Right.
And had it cashed in escrow of $437,000 for the repairs. And I had hired a leasing agent to find me a tenant because it was vacant to increase the value. And he said, well, I got some good news, bad news. I found a tenant, but she doesn't want to lease it, she wants to buy it. Okay, so we flipped the whole thing to her, and she paid off the first and continued on.
Okay,
It was a
so
good day.
there's a good story, a successful story. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm almost looking at
Would you start over?
I'm almost looking at an identical property that's to your scenario. They're asking $1.3 million, and it's on the river, and, in Arizona.
Is that relevant? It's on the river?
Kind of, because it's the same thing. It's an apartment complex, but it also has 12 RV spaces on it.
Okay.
And so it's a C building right now.
Are you the listing agent, or do you know
Yeah.
of this property?
I know of the property, and they've asked me to possibly represent them, but I'm not interested in that. I might be interested in purchasing it.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay.
In fact, let's take 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes, please. Okay, Angela is
No,
mulling over. What?
we shouldn't talk about it. I'll buy you a drink later. We can talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it in public?
No, because there's too many people in here that are smarter than me. No.
Wait, that is,
Tom promises to be very nice.
that is a very poor excuse. You are just as smart as anybody else, and there are no stupid questions. You're going to explain to us, we're going to help you. You're going to tell us what you've got. Oh, wait. There is a paper going around. Would everybody please sign it? You will subsequently be jointly and severally liable or something.
I need an attorney to represent me before I sign anything.
Yeah.
Remember, when you sign a promissory note with some other guys,
The do and don'ts that they go.
you are liable even if they don't pay, you are liable not for your 1/3. If 3 of you pay, you are jointly liable for the entire amount. Remember that. I've seen so many people, including in this room. This was like 10 years ago when things were bad. And I was a member here. In fact, I was the president here. And the stories that I heard, oh my God, all I did was co-sign. All I did was sign together with this other guy. And that guy turned out to be a bum. All these stories. Be careful. I know I sound like my grandpa, but I'm telling you. Okay, sign that paper, please. All right.
I'm not gonna present it because I don't control it yet, and I don't wanna have.
Are you afraid of competition or someone here steal it?
I'm not afraid of.
All right, why don't we talk about it so that we know how you can approach, perhaps we can help you.
Come on, this is great
Give you some ideas, that's why we're here.
Come on. Okay.
Don't bring in that bad.
Angela, come on up and tell us what you got. Stay there,
It's good for us, I know.
okay. All right, tell us what you have in your, where is it, in what town?
It's in Arizona.
Where is that?
Okay, here's.
Along the river. Okay.
It's all along the river, and it is currently a C-class, what I would deem as a C-class apartment building slash,
RV spots.
And they also have Airbnb.
Okay.
Is it distressed?
All right.
That's what I'm not talking about.
That's okay.
All right, Angela, continue on.
Okay, keep going, keep going.
And who is, tell me, so they want to sell it, is that correct?
They want to sell it. It's owned by a husband and wife. They're slightly tired. They're not fully retired yet, but they right now I think that they're running it on a cash basis, more or less.
Okay, we all know what that means. That's fine.
And
It's not your problem.
I think that the current residents, it's not stopping snowbirds from coming in for the winter season, but a lot of the current apartment guests or tenants are somewhat unfavorable. So they pay probably cash, but it's gonna be a rougher property to like reposition or turn a little bit. So that's why I've been a little afraid to get my hands dirty. I do have a.
Why would you get your hands dirty if you want to help them sell this property?
I
The
don't
only
know
time
that
you
I
can
wanna
get your
help
hands
them sell it.
dirty is if you lie on behalf of them.
Yeah, I don't know that I wanna help them sell it. I think I might wanna try to buy it and then sell it myself.
Oh, all right. Do they live in the property?
No, they don't live in the property.
How many miles away from the property do they live?
They live local, and they own other property.
Oh, they're local. Okay. And they want to, hold on, they want to sell.
Yeah, because the wife's mainly handling the heavy lifting. She's a former correctional officer.
She's a
though, so she
former
can
what?
handle Correctional officer.
Good, that's
Yeah,
good.
So she's been doing a decent job of pocketing the cash.
Okay, so how are you proposing to buy? Do you have an idea as to what you want to pay?
I have no money.
You have no money, that's fine, that
Don't
shouldn't
tell them
stop
that.
you.
Zero. And
That's
I have
fine.
somebody that can do management, property management for them.
Have they
Okay,
done
you've
it-
got management and willingness.
Have they done Airbnb or corporate rental?
Yeah, they currently have 2 units for Airbnb. If I was looking at it, I might try to, and they've been slowly rehabbing the units, but not to a good.
Okay,
standard.
that's fine. What, do you think they're willing to carry?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you own?
Nothing.
Is the perfect question, isn't it?
Nothing.
What does Angela own? Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay,
She has
that's
a house.
fine.
We're
That's-
just saying for
Wait,
for
we all
purposes.
started with nothing. I had to start twice with nothing.
Actually,
That's
I'm like.
enough.
Yeah. Much better the second time.
Okay, so are you willing to move on to the property?
No,
Okay, so you have nothing and you're not willing to get your hands dirty.
yeah,
It's a little tougher, doesn't it?
but I do know people.
You know people, ooh, okay. Blake, you had an observation?
Write that down.
I was just gonna say, just like anybody else in this room, she's got property, right?
No, she said she doesn't.
She does.
She does, I gotta say.
Sorry?
I gotta say.
So you have no property, do you have any friends?
Mhm.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And I think she'd be willing to trade too for some other, like, single.
wait, you have nothing to trade? Wait,
No, but not me, but I might be able to bring somebody in with land or, with single family that they might be willing to trade. negotiate.
Okay, so you have friends who could become your partner.
Right.
Cool. Okay. What do you think this place will bring annually, gross?
We were working the numbers and I think it's almost about 600,000 a year.
Okay, so is it worth,
That's
what,
gross.
Net or gross?
300 grand?
Is that gross?
No, they're asking $1 million for the property.
Oh, wait, you didn't say that.
Yeah, they're asking.
I asked you how much they wanted.
Oh, I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
Okay, so they're asking $1 million, and you think the gross is around 600, heavy management, heavy credit losses, and maybe a net of 330 cap, presumably, maybe, right? That sounds fabulous. I'm sure you can find somebody in this group. There's this anxious guy over there who wants to be your partner, who you could bring in with property as a down payment. They carry, and you split the profits under some terms and conditions, right?
Sure.
I'll trade her a piece of land for a second note.
I would like a commission if I could.
What about?
Sorry?
What about reposition of property?
Sorry,
I'm
go
ahead of
ahead.
myself, but when I'm thinking about this is to how I would make it even better on the other side, when I'm selling this to a potential investor.
No, you're not selling it to an investor, he becomes your
No,
investor.
Or
I'd be giving you a piece of land, use the down payment, you give me a second note back, you own it. If you screw up, I own it with that debt.
Yep.
Before, if you're serious, before this meeting ends, not this meeting, but I mean the meeting in the next couple of days, you will have a deal somehow to approach these sellers with and say, hey, I've got, which way do you want?
I would just suggest as well that, unless you've already thought about it, that you present this at a head want or at a presentation where there is no package in the book.
Well,
Because
I
people will
considered
want to
doing
hear
that,
this.
Good call.
again, even without control, but you're supposed to have control here, so that's why I was respectful of the group and didn't do it.
Well, you, wait a minute, you have control of yourself. And you, no, they
Maybe
say,
commission.
no, you say you're supposed to have a property under control when you present. No, I, Angela, present me, and here's the opportunity I'm looking at, and I'm looking for a partner under some terms and conditions. There is nothing wrong with presenting that at the meeting, and you will be inundated. Most of the offers will be BS, but there will be a couple of them. Yes.
Well, yeah, I think that the idea of the controls, that people aren't bringing properties, me especially as a broker, that they don't have listed yet, that they think they're gonna get the listing on, and then people, so I think it's different what she's looking.
Yeah, she is upfront. She says, I'm looking at this, I'm lusting after this property. I don't have control of it. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What kind of terms could you recommend she asked for from the sellers if she was able to put it under carry together?
I would want to know more about the sellers.
I agree.
You gotta know.
They're the
Who
old
are the
couple that
sellers?
really want to go to Oregon.
They're not.
They
old.
want to be in an RV park.
They want to be in an RV park? Oh,
Since we don't know, we have to do a hypothetical.
no, we have to ask questions. So you need to approach those people and say, I think I got several people who wanna make an offer on your
Right.
I
place.
think that they would do, this is in my mind, thinking about what, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Good, Debbie.
I suggested that she get an option on it,
Well,
and then that way she has control of it.
yes, that's a very good point, Deborah.
And then she can deal with whatever she needs to.
Yeah, Debbie, that's a good idea.
Well, and my thought of that is if I go to an option right away and I ask them for that, one, I might not be able to get the listing, which I might ultimately want to do, just be done. If I bought it, then I'd have to show proof of funds or some sort of means to actually do it without having this room and a partner. Now I have some thoughts,
Keep going.
so that's that.
Right.
And
I have a
so I might-
partner who owns a free and clear house that's
Right.
worth $300,000.
You're about to talk yourself into it. Keep going.
Then also, I was thinking that because they're not old, they have other property, they would probably wanna go into some sort of triple net type of
You
situation.
don't know what they want.
So-
Or
We haven't talked to them
performance.
yet.
Good
Yeah, we're
God.
just speculating
Yeah.
now what they want. We need to talk to them. Just a minute. Go ahead, ma'am.
So
So if you don't wanna, be at the point where you're not listing it, you're losing that opportunity to list it by putting an option and you don't really have the money to put an option fee down, why don't you go ahead and list it, be honest with them, say, hey, I'd like to do this myself, but I really don't have the money.
A listing is an option.
So I'm gonna go ahead and list it, and let's see what it can do. Now, then you can bring in all these guys here, and girls, and do it, and you can take your commission and put it into the deal, because you can put it right back into the deal and be a partner, and
There are people in the room, if you stand up and present this and think about it in a little bit more detail, who will take the option money out of their pocket and invest with you through the option. If you think that the option money is going to be $5,000 and you have this opportunity where you think you can buy it for $1 million and fix it up for $200,000 and have it be worth $1.8 million, there are going to be a dozen hands in the air that will gladly sign some type of piece of paper to give you that first piece of cash you're gonna need, which is the option money to control this opportunity. You'll find it without any problem in this room.
I will put up $50,000 in a title company right now for an option to buy that property under some terms and conditions. What does that mean?
Determined in 5 years.
Well, that's all it is, isn't it?
I guess the only concern would be the fiduciary is, do they perceive you to be their listing agent? And
No.
as Don was saying, you gotta make sure you got that.
Fair
right.
enough.
That's-
Fair enough.
No, I've pretty much, not jumped into
But
any.
given a disclosure
only-
saying you're a customer, you're not a client.
No, I would recommend somebody, I've already recommended that they have an agency in their state, because I'm in California.
Yeah, I can list it.
So
I
the
can list
only,
it for her
the only
and work
property
with it.
that, the only type of representation that I would do would be at this meeting or at another exchanger meeting.
But you're
Where I would
representing
feel
yourself, you're
comfortable.
not representing them, so
Yeah.
you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
You don't
so we're
need to,
good.
all you need to say is, I'm a licensed agent trying to make a buck, I
Yeah.
mean, in so many words.
And
That's
Tom,
all.
well, just out of curiosity, what would the listing commission be?
Oh, 60 grand.
Ballpark.
Yeah, about
Probably 60.
How much?
6% of $1 million, $60, 60 grand.
$50,000 to $60,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Depending on what you do
even
both
30
sides,
if I
right?
was on one side, yeah.
Yeah.
And what would the profit be if you turn this whole thing around and increase the value of this by $300,000 or $400,000? Just give one up for the other, as long as the other is
That-
reasonably
Or take both.
predictable.
If you clean it up.
I'll get you, Mark. That's the kind of property that I've been talking about, and that's what we've been buying in the Midwest. Second class, well, third class
This is
kind of
third. I
properties
think, but I'm
that
sorry.
you can fix up and make something beautiful of. I mean, happens all the time. Go ahead, sir.
I was just noticing the shark over here circling around here, the guy who likes to master lease and take over situations. I mean, why don't we talk about that, because then what you're doing is you're master leasing this and you set up a fee, but all the extra money you're making from that thing, you can pay to them as your option money down. So
Right.
you could be paying them down with your efforts over time, you get it down to a point where you can't finance it or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm sure he'll share with you for a piece of the action, his master lease.
And I'm licensed in Arizona, so
And
it
you're-
happens to be.
You don't need to be licensed.
I know that, but I'm saying if I were to list it and she went that route, it would
You
present
know,
it
this
higher.
listing stuff is just
Overrated.
overrated.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, your license in many instances is a detriment. Thank you for that word. I'm from Holland, I can figure out these
I'll help
words.
out.
And
I see it, I agree, and I've done it both ways.
if the gross is 600,000, could there be $50,000 left?
Oh, sure.
I mean, some number.
Just keep paying those people down, you got a set fee you're paying them.
Yeah,
Option, and you're taking
right.
all the, you're paying all the bills,
I bought
you're getting
that.
what they want out, but all the extra money, you just give it to them, and that pays down the principal.
I did
So
that.
you run this for 2 years, all of a sudden, this thing's at $700,000-800,000.
Zero interest.
Yeah.
Many people with crappy property like that, or crappy tenants, whatever, get sick of them, get sick of these people. And they would love for you to take over
So they can move into crappy.
somehow, so you can deal with these crappy people and you can turn it around. I mean, it's really not rocket science. But I would not look at it as an agent, I personally.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Okay. Wraps. Let's talk about wraparounds. Does everybody know what a wraparound is? Everybody knows. Do you know what a wraparound is?
A reach around?
Sir, do you know what a wraparound is? Do you? No? Okay.
He's a little, yeah.
Huh?
You know what a wrap is?
Alright.
No?
When you have a property worth that famous $1 million, and it has a $600,000 loan against it, that has an interest rate of 4%, say, it's worth $1 million. It's worth more than $1 million, actually.
Cool.
You own this mortgage, or you own this property and you owe this mortgage. Is it reasonable that you could sell this property with $100,000 down, and instead of carrying a $300,000 second at 6%, say, wouldn't it be better to carry one mortgage for $900,000 at, say, 5%?
You bet.
What does that mean? I'm agreeing to sell this loan, this house or this property for $1 million, 100,000 down. And I will carry a first mortgage subject to an existing loan of 600,000 and sell it that way. Okay, when I do that, first of all, the interest I pay on the first is how much?
4%.
4%.
Not everybody at the same time.
24,000.
24,000.
Oh.
18.
What is 5% of 900,000? Everybody?
45.
45,000. What is 45,000 minus 24,000?
21,000.
21,000. What is 21,000 divided by what?
300,000, 7%.
By the 300, right?
7%.
7%. Do you see what we've done? We have increased our return, even though we're showing that we have a 6% rate, because we're taking advantage of the interest on the existing first, right? Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
There's no problem, right?
Right, one part I didn't follow is if you get a $600,000 first, and you're saying the 900 becomes a first, how do you?
A $900,000 first, sort of. It's a first subject to an existing first. Thank you very much. It's not really a first, it's a wraparound, right? Okay, so you're making interest on your own debt, right? Okay, everybody understand that concept?
Yeah.
This is being done a lot, but what are the problems?
What are the problem called due?
Due on sale.
What are the problem, what?
It's called due.
The underlying loan is it has a due on sale clause, right? Those are big problems.
And the wrong person has.
Or if they.
Sorry?
Yeah, if they find out.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to say here, ignore it. Can't do that. But if they are like government loans, Fannie Mae kind of loans, you know, some people just wrap it. They say, well, they'll never find out, which is true. But I don't want to say that. But
Right. You have to
people have
consider
done it. Oh,
You can set a
absolutely.
collection company,
Right.
right?
Right.
You gotta make sure that the right person asks for the 1098.
Well,
And not
also.
the wrong person, that's pretty important.
Also, the
Insurance.
Right, insurance.
Right. Oh yeah. All these problems. I understand.
There's a lot, yeah.
There's a lot to think about.
Very effective, especially with interest rates so low right now. Don't you think we might see this a lot?
You would think so, but
I mean,
that's the
you'd see
problem,
like
you
a
don't
whole
see it. Why don't you see it?
People
Ignorance
don't,
on,
it scares people.
most people.
Scares people, right?
It's too much. It's not vanilla. It's like, you know, Rocky Road.
It's not even that rocky.
Well, that is a good point. We used to do that all the time when there was no due on sale clause.
Yeah.
And now these buyers are saying, well, wait a minute. This is all very well, but what if that loan gets called, that underlying loan, right? That's not a good idea.
So
Now,
you discuss it through.
it usually doesn't happen with these long-term, you know, sold loans. The loans that are sold to Fannie Mae, I don't believe they'll ever
And
find.
it's not gonna happen as long as everyone's getting paid, or if we're in a very, you know, smooth economic part of the cycle. But if things change, well then lenders will look at things change. You can't predict that.
You're absolutely right, except, I don't want the people to think that I'm saying this, but I've done it. Who
Turn
is the
camera
lender?
off. Yeah.
Well,
Who is the lender on the underlying loan?
Oh.
It's being served by Wells Fargo, 2001.
Yeah.
Who is the lender?
Some
who is the lender?
Yeah,
On which loan?
on the first.
On the 600?
You have to make the payments to Wells Fargo as servicing agent for
Yeah.
Who is the lender?
Nobody knows.
No one really knows.
No one really knows.
Fine.
The lender is some fund, you know, 1,000 packages bundled together.
Deutsche Bank.
And the servicer doesn't care what you do, because if the loan gets paid off, they lose the servicing rights. Nobody has a interest in calling a long-term sold loan, and I'm talking about long-term sold residential loan. No one has an interest in calling that loan. I have never heard of such a loan being called the last 10 years. I'm not saying that I'm advocating that, but I would do it, yes, sir.
You also hedge your bet, as long as you have a way to take out the 300,000. If they do call the 600,000 due, the first thing is they need to give you notice that you're in default and you have the right to cure it. So-
Oh, you're talking about the person, yes, sir. You're talking about who are you talking about now?
If
The buyer or the seller?
the buyer
Okay?
is, the thing is that if you go in default because of the due on sale, you have the right to cure that. So
Absolutely.
Take away the wrap.
Oh, absolutely, right. Well, I'm telling you that I have never heard of it in the last 10 years. It just doesn't seem to happen. I hesitate to bring this up because, well, you know, in New Mexico, who I was talking to from New Mexico here? I was talking to somebody from New Mexico. Oh, yeah. In New Mexico, they sell property on basically an installment land contract for deed, right? Every day, those loans, the due on sale clause is being violated. Think about it. These people don't own their property free and clear. It's being sold on contract, right? Read the deed of trust carefully, or the mortgage in your state carefully, and it'll say that it's due, even if it's a long-term lease, or it's sold on contract, or some form of transfer of title. That loan is due. And every day in New Mexico, all your realtors are violating the due on sale clause. And nobody cares. It's just interesting.
I disagree. There are people that care. They are nailing those people.
There are people who care. Wait.
Companies are coming in and knocking them out.
Yes, mortgage companies, but not loans that are sold on the Fannie Mae loans. Individual mortgage companies.
You wrap it and the mortgage company finds out, they'll,
Who is the mortgage company?
well, there's 2,500 of them nowadays.
No, there's not that many. They're servicers. They don't. They want the loan to continue. Sorry?
Mr. Cooper.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer.
No, that's okay.
But you said that we should look ahead, that that we should look into the future.
Yes.
And would it not be true that if in 5 years, or 6 years, or 7 years of this 30-year loan period, prevailing interest rates are at 6 or 7 or 8, that there's going to be a tremendous incentive
Yes.
for these people that are holding 3% loans
Yes.
to say,
Yes.
big attorneys and big firms,
Yes.
big hedge funds, that we are going to find a way
Yes.
to basically research all of these situations.
Yes.
And basically exercise the due on sale.
Yes.
So that you will run into issues.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right. I agree.
But as long as everything is good, everything is good.
Until it's not.
Blake?
And then another opportunity will present itself.
Yes.
I had a couple of comments. One is that obviously you're getting a lawyer involved, you've got contingencies. If they do call it due on sale, you figure out who's gonna be responsible, how that's gonna be taken care of.
Yeah.
But also just be self-serving comment, a client of mine who's sitting next to me has $1 million house in the book with a 3.3%, $470,000 first loan. And that's what we're bringing to the marketing session tomorrow.
I am well aware that I am treading on thin ice. I'm well aware, but you should be aware that opportunity is there, you know. And you guys are violating it every year, and your state apparently has sanctioned this. Oh, yeah, by the way, if you say, well, I want to check to make sure you're a good person, so I'll give me your social security number, that's slightly different. Yes,
I
sir?
also see a lot of them not using collection companies to solve a lot of issues that come down the road. And collection companies are cheap.
Oh, yeah, well, there's this outfit that used to be a member of our group, I never see him anymore, in California, I forget who they were. They service your loan. I don't like
Service it,
other
they
people
become-
servicing my loan,
Yeah.
but that's me.
Everyone to their, yeah.
I'm a control freak, you know? Yeah, Blake?
Just one last thing, because I know you'll be wrapping up sometime soon, is a lot of times I replace my own debt by creating new paper, and then you can discount it and sell it. You get a guy like Tom who might buy a 6% note with the right discount, and that's just another means of refinancing without going to the bank.
Yeah. So.
Good call.
So, but let me leave you with, if
Solve
you
a
sell
lot of
property, be a nerd. Be a nerd.
If you're gonna be a lender, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And there is a reason that bankers are all nerds. It's a reason. And there is a reason they just sit behind a desk and react. They never reach out and try to do something, what about this, what about that? So, and we're talking about the small-time bankers we generally deal with. We're not talking about, you know, the big guys who are very creative. Yes, sir?
I'm just gonna share that Blake and I did a deal I had in the book for 3 years, my RV park for sale.
All right, would you start again because half the people can't hear you?
Sorry, stand up. For about 3 years, I had an RV park in Edgewood, New Mexico for sale. That's $2 million, okay? And I didn't get offers. And Blake called me one day and says, I have a client who will take your RV park, but she has no cash.
Okay.
And,
minor inconvenience?
Yeah, it is. And so, anyway, I carried back a second on the property.
Well, tell me about the first.
We had her borrow $1.4 million in cash from my bank.
Okay.
We used a second on another RV park.
And then he gave me a second on another RV
Just a
park.
minute. She went to a bank and got a $1.4 million first mortgage from a bank.
Yes.
As secured by your property.
Yes.
You carried the difference.
I carried a second on that property, and I carried a second, and the second also included another park in Kansas.
Okay.
Kansas City.
Okay.
So she actually closed the property with no cash.
Right.
So I think that sometimes you gotta think outside that box of how do you get in, you know, with no cash. And those
That's right.
deals are out there. If you just turn up enough rocks, you'll find them, you know.
Kiss enough frogs. Absolutely.
And I just brought a second note on that other RV park to the meeting, and basically that's what I told Howard, we wanna buy it with this note on this other KOA campground, and he said, hallelujah, no, yeah, we'll cross collateralize back. So he's got, if she screws up, he's got 2 RV parks.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And she's excellent, because she didn't have to.
Do you want to sell your loan?
Well, my banker basically told me, you've got to guarantee the first.
They made you guarantee the first? Yeah, that happens, I understand.
Well,
But
that's
you know, you
okay.
were,
I get back that plus another RV park.
Plus $1 million.
Right.
You know, so.
you know, you had to sell, or you wanted to sell, you got a good price. I mean, I understand, I have
She's
my
got a lot to
signature.
lose, cause that RV park in Kansas is 3 million.
Yeah, $3 million.
Yeah.
Oh, I looked at that park a couple years ago.
I completed a 1031 on a mobile home park with a convenience store, and a owner carried 1031 with irrevocable assignments of the same note.
Say that word again,
Irrevocable assignments
what's that?
of the same first note deed of trust.
What is an irrevocable assignment? I've never heard of such a thing.
It's a percentage of the total note. Because I didn't know.
I don't know from nothing, explain it to me.
I'm trying to, Tom.
I'm listening.
So if you have 100% of a note, and you're in a 1031, I didn't know what chunk of the note I was going to need to use to buy the replacement properties.
Okay,
So I had to do it in percentages.
okay.
And so I could chunk up this one note into a percentage of ownership
How
for
did
the
you,
replacement.
how did you sign the back of the note?
With a pen.
The single owner had it, the primary.
How did
was
that
the first.
person sign the back of the note?
Signed the back of the note,
Well, yeah,
right?
they
The
signed
seller,
it like a
the
check.
buyer. The buyer, right?
What did he sign?
He signed a first note deed of trust.
No.
Yeah.
The note was sold, right?
No. It was an owner carry note on a mobile home park.
Yes.
Right, so we have that. So there's only one note. And then I took it and chunked the note, percentage of ownership,
How did you
irrevocable
do
assignments
that?
of that.
An undivided.
Kennington Common or what?
No. By giving them.
The owner of the
a
note
percentage
signed
of the
something.
note.
The owner of the note signed something.
An undivided interest. He sliced
The
it
owner
up.
of the note or the borrower of the note, right? The owner of the note, the owner of the payment,
The owner of the note. Who owned the note?
Seller, no?
my seller
Seller.
owned the note.
Did he assign a portion of that to somebody else?
For getting the 1031 exchange, right?
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Okay, cool. He signed,
What did he sign?
he being the seller,
The note holder.
the note borrower, right?
So he sold a portion of the note.
Yeah.
Let me change the subject
Okay.
slightly. I was trying to make a point.
I know, you're trying.
When you sell a mortgage,
I didn't sell them.
trade it or whatever, how do you assign that interest in that mortgage?
Without recourse,
Sorry?
without recourse.
There's a lender, he knows about that stuff. You assign it, pay to the order of Joe Blow without recourse or guarantee, if you want to be totally. If you don't do that, and you assign a note, say, pay to the order of Tom Vanerp, which is how I might make you do it, if I can.
Guaranteed.
You have co-signed that loan. Did you know that? Right, Billy?
Yep.
I have purchased notes where the seller of the note,
Created deficiency.
yeah, it says the seller of the note, I said, I want to buy it. Okay, sign over here, pay to the order of Tom Vanerp or VRM Capital, and you date it. Thank you for that recourse. Should the borrower fail to pay, I can call you. I've done that. And they have called me because I didn't know that 30 years ago.
So default to one is default to all? Is that what you're referring to?
You are co-signing the loan. If you sign a check, pay to the order of Tom Vanerp, and that check bounces, can I come to you? If you get a check from him, and you then give it to me, and you sign it to me, you have guaranteed that check, just like a note. Yes, sir.
Just a couple of comments, just because Billy A being here reminds me. So Alan Friedman, of course, was a wonderful guy in this group who did a lot of stuff and taught me a lot about it. And you mentioned it at the beginning, so if you're holding these notes, you don't foreclose, right?
Well, you do.
You
It
can,
depends.
but it's better, you sue on the note.
Well, you can, you have that option.
Yeah, I mean, Friedman's policy was always, you never foreclose, you sue on the note, because you didn't want the property, you wanted the money.
Right.
Now, you may get to sign the property in the meantime, but the foreclosure process is probably too friendly to the borrowers, is the bottom line.
Right. Okay. There we are. So, let me just tell you again, if you sell a mortgage or note, the deed of trust, and you assign it, make sure you write on there, sold to VRM Capital, that's my company, without recourse. Yeah, yes.
I got a dead guy's house and his loan.
Just a minute, you have do you own the house?
I am in the process in informal probate of getting it in my name, but the son was letting it go to the bank.
Okay.
And I said, what are you letting it go for? And he didn't want to mess with his wrongful death anyway.
Yes.
So I paid him $3,000. It's
For a quitclaim deed or something?
yeah, and he
Yes.
just said I signed over all rights and
Fine.
I caught the loan up.
Fine.
It's a $170,000 house, so I'm into it. I bought it for 3, paid 5 to catch it back up. But
And how much is the loan?
The loan is $65,000 right now.
Okay. I wouldn't worry about it, good for you.
That's buying, that's buying a
He
house.
was just gonna let it go.
Yes.
I gave him 3,000 cash.
Right.
Didn't have to wait on anything.
I used to be a house buyer like that, you know, you find these little weird situations.
started, yeah,
It's
yeah.
fun, it's great fun. It's hard work, but it's great fun.
It's good.
So you're worried that the lender is gonna call it due on sale?
I'm not worried about it. Like I
They
call
could,
into
I
them,
guess.
they don't care. They, maybe someday they might, but they can't even find.
But, you know, that's the sort of stuff I wouldn't worry about. You're gonna sell the property, or you're gonna keep it?
Right now, I'm collecting rentals, so.
Okay.
I'll sell.
What's the worst that can happen?
You have to go get
I'd have to go get a loan.
Yeah, right.
that was my main thing, was making sure that I was in a position, if for some reason they did call it, I could just go.
They will give you time, I wouldn't worry about
Yeah.
it. They'll make you assume it or something, I wouldn't worry about it. Yes, sir?
And worst case scenario, you sell it for 110, cover your thing and make some pocket money.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to learn more about Brian's master lease idea on residential. Is that a way to get around this?
I hate residential owner carry situations, that's
I know
it's
you hate it,
lethal,
but-
you know? Mr. Frank and Mr. Dodd,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, you know, I mean,
Some lawyer could tie you up.
yeah. As a knowledgeable person, I would not deal with a protected person. And let me tell you all who is protected. You know what I mean? There's a list this long. Only deal with business
It
people.
doesn't matter, you always lose.
I won't deal with a consumer. No way. Yes, sir.
So I have one, a rental that I bought, the guy owed $55,000 on it, and he was behind like $7,000. I did a wrap on it,
Just a minute.
I did a wrap.
You have bought a rental.
I did.
Oh, no, you bought a house that you turned into a rental. Was he living there at the time?
He was having it as a rental property, but he wasn't keeping up with his mortgage payments.
He was a business person who owned a rental.
Correct.
No problem, but
Well-
continue.
So he only had 10 years left on the loan, so I wrapped it dollar for dollar and. for
What kind of a loan was it?
It was a conventional.
What kind of a conventional?
30-year fixed, but he had 10 years left on the term.
It's like an FHA or VA or something?
Conventional.
Conventional, was it sold to some servicer? I wouldn't even bother.
But he had,
Sorry?
I had to pay off a $5,000 federal tax lien.
Fine, okay, that's fine.
So if.
So you stole the property and subject to a loan. Congratulations.
So if this guy gets another federal tax lien on it.
Wait a minute. You got title insurance?
Yes.
What do you care? I mean, you have title insurance, you are the owner, that's what title insurance is about.
Yeah.
If the title, it's up to the title company to search for liens, and if that lien is, it doesn't matter, as long as you have clear title, Now, did you have knowledge that there was such a lien floating out there?
Yes, I paid it off.
Oh, you paid it off, well, there's no problem.
But because he still has, I wrapped an existing mortgage.
So?
If he gets another lien on him.
No, wait, no.
You can't lean on your.
That mortgage is owned by the mortgage company. It's not his property. You bought it. No, you have no problem.
Okay.
So I've got a bunch of properties that I got with Fannie and Freddie loans. They're in my name individually. So now I want to transfer those into either a trust or a Nevada asset protection trust. And the one thing I'm worried about is the due on sale clause. A, do you think that's likely? B, do you think I should call the individual servicers and go, hey, we're just transferring it to a trust?
I wouldn't do it. I would, if the trust is in your benefit, to your benefit, I would defy them to call the loan.
I'm good at that.
I'll guarantee you they won't. I won't sign anything, but I'll guarantee you.
I don't think they will.
Being done all the time.
You're the expert.
The loan will get called.
I wouldn't done. Yes, sir, somebody here.
There's two main ways, and that's it.
Sorry.
I think part of the confusion too, and I think people don't know the option, talk about the difference of taking the property subject to the debt and taking it on an all-inclusive note and deed of trust, okay? That's the difference. So when you're doing a wrap, which is an all-inclusive note and deed of trust, they owe you, you owe the bank.
Right.
In that case, his guy would still have an equitable interest, possibly, if you've done it right. If you take a property subject to the debt, says, I'm taking the property, the loan's there, I know it's there, I'm gonna pay the loan, I know I have to pay it off, but I don't owe you, Mr. Seller. We both are on obligation to this loan.
I wouldn't worry about him. He got his title
No,
insurance.
this is good. I'm just saying for us, when we sell a property with a wrap, I would recommend we make an all-inclusive note deed of trust where they owe us, we owe the underlying bank.
Oh, yes.
We keep our credit shit good.
Absolutely. You get control. They must pay you, and if you feel like it, you can pay the underlying loan. Well, I mean, that's what it amounts to.
But ideally, they're gonna say you wanna put it into an escrow company so that
Yes,
you can.
and you should, right. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, collection.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's the proper way to do it.
And
Yeah.
they give you the 1098 at the end of the year, right? Because that's the other thing that triggers a due on sale, is when the wrong person calls for the 1098, right?
Well, you get a 1098 to your borrower.
Right, it's so if the wrong person on the loan calls for the 1098.
Yeah, but you're not gonna call for a 1099, or 1098, that comes in the mail.
Couldn't agree more.
The issue is mainly the insurance.
Don't upset the apple cart.
Right,
That's what
and
the
it's insurance.
There you go.
So what about the insurance?
Well, the loss payable will change.
Understood.
If you deed this to a
trust.
mumbo jumbo trust,
Right, mumbo jumbo, exactly.
theoretically, you should call your insurance agent and say, you know, I've sold the property. You need to change the loss pay.
Or could you just add as
Or additionally
insured, right?
There you go.
That's the best way.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Or
Yeah.
a way.
Okay, next. There was somebody else here?
I think reps are amazing, and I agree with you. In a logical thing, yes, the banks would be looking for a better interest rate as interest rates go up, but they're so far past. Once they make the loan,
There
sell
are
off the
no
bundle of
banks
paper,
involved in those
move
kinds of
away.
loans.
They don't-
People just don't seem to
can't think
understand that
logically
the
like
bank doesn't have an interest in the loan other than servicing rights.
Fully
They
agree.
already sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not gonna go back through it.
My response to that would be that it isn't going to be the banks that do that. It's going to be the hedge fund managers on Wall Street who see that they can make a differential interest rate of 1.5 points or something like that on $1 billion worth of loans. there
Ed is
will be
totally right.
some Sharp MBAs
Yep.
who figure this out and make hundreds of millions doing it. Not
Only,
the banks.
but only
It's
if
the hedge
they
fund.
can't, only if it's
Also, believe it or
easier to
not.
make money elsewhere. They can make that extra point.
I understand. Yes, sir.
I agree with you.
So when someone plants that in a hedge fund manager's ear, I mean, that means us being ready for all those people who need to sell super quick.
Yeah.
There's another
It
opportunity.
has only happened once to me during the savings and loan crisis when the loans were held by local institutions. And they went through all the county records and found loans that were low interest rate and that should be paid more. It happened to me once, and I got a phone call, and they said, you know, this issue here. And I said, yeah, I violated your, you know, behead me. And the guy said, no, but we'll give you a year to pay us off.
Okay.
Whoopee. That happened to me. Okay, are there any other issues that we need to resolve right now? Because I am sort of done with, other than raps, and they can talk about raps forever. The thing that I would impress on you, that when you buy on credit, keep negotiating with the seller, the holder of your loan. Keep in touch. They want to sell, they always want to sell at some point. Keep negotiating. Ask if you could pay once a year, you know, 10 for 11 payments or 11 for 12 payments or some such thing. And people forget that. And you can make a lot of money on your own debt.